Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Leadership Lab. I'm your host, Adam Harris. Today I'm joined by Mark Turner, who's co-founder and owner of World Multisport. And what's really interesting about today's guest is he's only here because of one of our previous guests. Matt Hastings was here 3 or 4 weeks ago and was waxing lyrical about Mark. So when somebody speaks so highly of somebody else, I like to meet them. So Mark, welcome.
Thanks, Adam.
So you've only been in the region for 18 months, so not a lot of people will know who you are or what you do. So I'd love for you to kind of share.
So my background, I guess, is in coaching, multisport coaching, triathlon, swimming, running, cycling. Been in the health and fitness industry for 30 years, I guess. Initially, when I left school, I started as a police officer in Queensland. So I did 13 years in the police, but 5 of those was as a physical education instructor at the police academy. So that started my journey into health and fitness. Mm-hmm. And then my wife is from Taranaki, Suzanne.
Okay.
And we came here for holidays on and off over the last 15 or so years, and then we moved here in December 2020. So, yeah.
And how's it been since you've been here?
Look, I love it. When I first came to Taranaki, it was 2007.
Yep.
And I'm like, I wasn't a fan. But over the years, I've seen it develop and grow, and I can't explain the spiritual connection I have to the place. Like, I love to exercise, so get outdoors and run and ride and swim. So the region, I think, is fantastic in that sense. But I find it to be big enough to have the vibrancy of a city, but small enough to have the community aspect. And it's the community aspect that I really enjoy, and really am loving meeting the people and the support that we've been given since we've arrived. So we arrived here in December 2020 with 2 young children, unemployed, no money, the bags on our back, and that was it. So we were in a position in our life where we had to start again, and we started World Multisport, and we started the Coastal 5 event, and the community and the business community have embraced and welcomed us, and I just think it's fantastic.
So just talk to us a little bit about the business. What is it that you do and some of the projects that you've done? Mm-hmm. But I'd love to know some of the things that you've got planned in the future.
So our coaching business is called World Multisport, and that is helping people who want to get into endurance sport, essentially, who want to do a triathlon or a running event or a cycling event or a swimming event. But we're very focused on people initially starting their journey into endurance sport. There's a lot of coaches, businesses out there that are helping people get faster. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty hard when you want to start. So we're all about, we run beginners courses, about people want to do their first triathlon, and we work with people that couldn't swim 25 metres. And then 18 months, 2 years later, they're doing Ironman triathlons. Now, Matt, when he started, could not really swim at all. But he's like many people who start triathlon, they can't swim.
Yep.
So that's where we focus our business in terms of, we have a squad here in Taranaki, and then we have a squad also over in Taupo, headed by a former Taranaki lad, Clark Ellis.
Yep.
And then we have an online program as well that works with athletes anywhere. That could be in New Zealand, Australia. So that's our coaching business, but we also have an events business. Mm-hmm. And last year we started an event called the Coastal 5, which is 5 running events over 2 days to equal a marathon distance, and that we're stoked with how well that went, and we've got obviously planned again for this year. And then we're looking at some other events in the future as well, because I think having been fortunate to train, coach, race in many different parts of the world, mm-hmm. I think what we have in this region is spectacular and as equal as anywhere I've ever been from an outdoor health and lifestyle perspective.
Wow.
And so I think it's a bit of a hidden gem, and the goal in a few years is to make this region the health and lifestyle capital of New Zealand. That's where I'm working towards.
Okay, so what's the support that you feel that you need to kind of achieve that vision?
Look, and we're already getting it. New Plymouth District Council, Kelvin Wright, and now at VT, Venture Taranaki have been really supportive. Sport Taranaki have been very supportive. WIT developed some really good partnerships and relationships with them, and they're in the same alignment. I mean, anything that I find people, they're very proud of this region, mm-hmm. and anything to show it off, they're like, oh, wow, this would be fantastic. And you have Taupo's the events capital, right? And Queenstown's the adventure. Well, why can't we be the health and lifestyle capital? So having some conversations with different people that I think, that's a pretty good idea. So I guess got to put my money where my mouth is and make it happen. But that's pretty much what drives me every day. Is I have a deep passion and purpose for getting people moving,
Okay.
for changing their habits and their routines and improving their lifestyle. But the vehicle I do that through is endurance-based activities, and whether that's in a coaching capacity or an event capacity, that's what I'm passionate about. And my life has led me to come here to Taranaki and start again. And I'm not religious, but I believe in some level of universal fate, and here I am and loving it.
So we'll come on to the coaching in a bit. Is there a vision for kind of a marquee event from a global perspective that you want to bring to the region?
Coastal 5.
Okay.
Yeah. I truly believe we can make it, some might say this is a brash goal, but I think we can make it New Zealand's premier running event. And the reason I say that is, you're going to do a marathon. There's some magnificent marathons in New Zealand. Queenstown, Auckland, Christchurch, some magnificent marathons, Hawke's Bay. And there are some great trail races. And they're fantastic. And the reason those big community events do well and we're attracted to them is because of the contagion effect. We're a social animal. You know, we feed off the buzz of each other. That's what parkrun has gone so well, because it's this free community event. It's the community and people getting active. So if you want to introduce a new event to an already what is crowded calendar in the endurance space, it's got to be a little bit different. It's got to be a little bit unique. With the Coastal Walkway, Lake Magamahoe, Pukaiti, Pukakira Park, and then the Devon Street. We have 5 really, really unique locations and different events. And I just believe because of that, the mountain, the surf, the park, the lake, I just think there's something really special and unique about what we can do. And it caters for all types of athletes, in that serious athletes want to do all 5.
Yep.
They want to go fast, knock your socks off. You can walk it. You can do one event. Last year in the mile, we had families and kids walking and jogging. It was so much fun. It was such an amazing atmosphere. So I believe, from a community perspective and the way that the community embraced the event in COVID times, I think we can make it New Zealand's premier running event. And you know, we had feedback from people who just did the half marathon, and we had a lady come to us and she said, I've done 22 half marathons. It's the best one I've ever done.
Wow.
You know, we have people just doing the mile. You know, we want, you know, I know that I remember speaking to Brian Vickery about this, the Devon Street Mile. Let's bring it back. But it used to be point to point by having, you know, we started the Devon Street Mile at the clock tower, ran 800 metres down Devon Street and turn around. So you go out and back and you have, you know, imagine in years to come we have thousands of people watching it. And we get, the plan is to bring the country's best milers in and have an elite race where we'll pay them some prize money. You know, last year I don't remember his name, but he only ran the mile, this guy, and he just wanted to do it. And you can tell he's at the start line, he's banging his thighs and he's pumping himself up. And as he sort of runs and he's coming back to the finish, he's he's doing this and he's won. It was fantastic. I mean, that's what it's about.
So just tell me, as you were, you know, I'd love to know what was going through your head when you had the concept, and was it always 5 events, or did you look at the options around and go, actually, well, I was thinking about 3, but actually we'll make it 5? I'd love for you to share that.
There was a similar event back in Australia, in a regional town back in Australia, and it was in the middle of nowhere. So I got the concept off then, and then I thought, I was asking me, why are there no great running events here? And so I did a bit of research, and you know, the mountain to surf sort of evaporated away, for want of a better term. And I thought, actually there's something here. Knowing of that event and knowing the different attractions and how much I got out of, you know, the Tianui Trail, I thought we can do something magic here. It was just, I've always listened to my gut instinct. I mean, when does your gut instinct let you down in life? And that's what I did.
Awesome. I'm here with Mark Turner. Mark, let's talk about your history. So,
how long have you got?
Give us the 2-minute version.
Okay. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do as a coach. I have, like I said, I've coached all over the world. I've had a varied professional career. I've worked in police, government. I've worked for the AFL, the Australian Football League, as a state manager and umpiring. I've competed at a national level in running. I've coached all levels of athlete. I've had my own business as a swim school. I've had a business where I lost a lot of money. I've had a broken marriage. I've had failed relationships, suffered from a lot of mental health issues, depression, due to a son, my eldest son back in Australia had some significant health issues. And then clawed my way back up to a point in my life where I was happy and settled and content, and took what I thought was a dream job in Scotland as the head coach for Triathlon Scotland. We sold our business, our home, rehomed our pets. I left 2 teenage boys behind in Australia and moved to Scotland to take up this, what I thought was a dream job. In fact, if I was still there, I'd be leading them into the Commonwealth Games right now, and that was what it was about. But I guess the dream job turned into a nightmare, and long story short, I became a whistleblower on Triathlon Scotland, and they terminated my contract at the height of COVID in March 2020.
What does a whistleblower mean?
A whistleblower is where you blow the lid, essentially, on what you think are, what I saw at the time were bullying, harassment, and behaviours I wasn't comfortable with in terms of the way athletes have been treated, staff, previous coaches. So, I'd been over there only 7 or 8 months, and I guess, like I said, I wasn't comfortable with a lot of the things that I was seeing, and I wasn't prepared to put my name to that or be part of it, and I called them out on it, and they didn't like it.
So you kind of raise a really interesting topic with regards to standards, expectations, coaching. Whether it be in sport or whether it be in business, there's a responsibility to create a safe container.
100%.
Were you the only one that was seeing it?
No. Maybe I was the only one silly enough to say this is unacceptable. No, I wasn't the only one that had raised issues previously. No.
That must have been pretty tough for you to go through that.
It was the worst time in my life. I've had some challenging times in my life: depression, serious illness to my eldest son, losing a lot of money. So I guess I've experienced life, but this period was really tough. So I started work there in May 2019. November 2019, Suzanne and our 2 young boys had to come back to New Zealand to sort out a visa issue with our youngest son, Charlie. And then I went to a training camp in Fuerteventura in Spanish Canary Islands with some athletes from Great Britain and Scotland. Went back to Scotland, and I came back to New Zealand for a 2-week holiday. And then I went back to Scotland, and as soon as I got back, the pressure and the stress was too much because of essentially what I had decided to do. And then, if I tell you, Adam, look, you're a bad person, Adam, you're terrible at your job, and you're not going, oh, Mark, you're right. Sorry, buddy. You're going to get defensive, and you're going to maybe deny an attack because it's human nature. You're not going to put up your hand, and essentially that's what, in my belief, that the organisation did. So I went on stress leave, and I was actually on my own in Scotland for another 8 weeks, not working, no family, no friend, very little support network. The depths of a Scottish winter. So if you've ever been to Scotland in winter, 6 hours, raining, dark, cold, and it was a horrible time. I was suicidal and came very close to taking my own life because of the pressure and the stress and questioning whether I'd done the right thing. Had I done the right thing? Did I have a blind spot about what I was thinking? And obviously I put forward some pretty heavy accusations towards them, and to which they denied. And no doubt it makes you question yourself, but to this day I believe I did the right thing, and I wouldn't change anything I did. But it was a horrible time in my life, and I was in a pretty bad way.
I appreciate the vulnerability and your sharing. I'd love to know, as you were going through that period, those 8 weeks, and you mentioned the aspect of kind of mental health, and what allowed you to kind of come out of that? What was the support that somebody either did for you, or you put your hand up and asked for help?
Well, I wasn't getting any help from my employer. I was on stress leave, and they weren't providing any level of duty of care. Fortunately, there were a few people over there in Scotland who I didn't know that well took me in. One family took me in, and I was living with them because I wasn't sleeping. I thought I was having heart attacks. I was having full-on stress breakdowns. It was a time that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and eventually the story became public knowledge, and one of Scotland's leading sports journalists did an investigation on it, and it was on the front page of the Scottish Times for about 3 weeks, I think, in the whole midst of COVID when that hit the world. And so were it not for a few people that were supporting me, it would have been very difficult. But I also came back to my purpose of what I was doing it for, and my wife and my children, and exercise. You know, exercise has been my bedrock. Is that get out of bed, have a purpose, have a routine. I started writing a book. I wrote a book called Why We Try, Guiding the Ordinary to the Extraordinary, about different stories of athletes that I coached to Ironman Triathlon. I wrote that book. I tried to keep as busy as I could, but I practiced gratitude every day, but it didn't mean there were some days that I didn't, I'd be driving along in the car and I'd think there's a truck coming the other way, I'm just going to pull in front of the truck. Yeah, some really horrible dark days. And then March 2020, they terminated my contract. So we were in Scotland, no income, no money, no thought of what to do next. And in the end, we had 2 days to get out of Scotland. We had 2 days to pack up our life in Scotland, and we got on a plane back to Queensland. And I spent the next 6 months recovering. So it wasn't until the end of that year that we moved here. My family's from Queensland, and basically lived on the Sunshine Coast in Noosa. It allowed me to heal, more or less. Yeah, so that year, lots of ups and downs. Lots of tough days. I was questioning what I had done. Had I done the right thing or not? Did I have a blind spot? Was it me? Was it them? But the impact that it had taken on me, and because of what I'd already been through in my life, I was at a point where I put this job on a pedestal. Yeah. And it just didn't turn out the way I'd hoped, and I still feel a lot of guilt, and not shame, but guilt about what I'd put my family through.
As you're reflecting now, what's the biggest thing you learnt about yourself through that period?
I'm pretty strong. I got a lot of resilience. Yeah, pretty strong, resilient, because the pressure was intense. And like I said, we came back to Queensland and spent the next few months just healing, and then I thought, God, I've got to try and get a job and start again, and I applied for jobs here in New Plymouth. I couldn't get anything. I applied for jobs as a labourer. Nothing against labourer, but I couldn't get a job as a $20 per hour labourer. So we started our business, and like I said, we had nothing, like literally nothing. We were living with Suzanne's parents, so we had to start again. And that's not the first time I've had to do that in my life. You got to set goals and be true to your purpose, and just keep working your way.
So there'll be people that will be watching, listening to this, that won't have the resilience that you've got. What would your advice be to them?
That's a really good question. I think for me, a lot of it is focusing on your purpose and your why. What's your North Star in your life? I have a North Star that I want to create sustainable change for people. That I think to be happy, we've got to have love and relationships and something to do. I have something to do. So what kept me through and going through all of those times was the love of my family and my purpose. So I think in anything, if you have happiness and love, there was a study out of Stanford. They did a 33-year happy study or something. If you've got those two things, well then things aren't that bad.
I'm here with Mark Turner. Mark, triathlons. How did you get into triathlons?
I am a self-confessed triathlon nerd and tragic.
Which means?
I just love them. I did my first triathlon in 1989. So triathlon was still quite a new sport then. So I was 18 or 19. And I've been hooked on them ever since. I just love it. I had, at the time, I had to overcome a pretty serious back operation from playing AFL football and tennis, and part of the rehabilitation was swimming and cycling. And I saw this local advertisement for a triathlon. I thought, give that a go.
Yep.
Love it. And some 30 odd years later, I just love the sport. I think it's a fantastic sport for aerobic exercise. It's multidisciplinary, and it's a great community. Yeah. And so if the fact that I've been able to have most of my professional adult life revolved around triathlon in some capacity is a privilege.
No, which is your favourite discipline?
Oh, the running. Yeah, the running. I love to get out and go for a run. Like I went this morning. I went for a run here in New Plymouth with a mate, and we were running along the coastal walkway just about getting blown off because of the wind and the rain. But I just loved it.
Yeah.
And the variety of places that you can run, and it's just so simple. Put on a pair of running shoes.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what, you can wear jeans and a shirt if you want. The freedom of running is something that I love. Yeah.
So let's talk about your coaching and your leadership journey. As you reflect, what was the point that you realised, actually, I'm a coach and I'm supporting and helping other people? Can you remember that point?
Really early on when I started my endurance journey. So I joined a local running club, and we would train together quite a few times a week. And our first coach, he was a bit of an idiot, to be honest. And I didn't really learn much of him, but I learned a lot off the senior members of the club. And I just loved listening to them about, what they did to run well. And over time, within the next couple of years, I was sort of coaching at that club, and I just loved it. I loved the process of actually helping others. And I was in the police at this time, and then when the opportunity came up to become a physical education instructor at the police academy, it further enhanced the love I had for actually instruction and teaching and coaching. Different environment back then. The job was to break you. Now you don't get away with that type of stuff, but I just truly love the process of helping others in a coaching capacity. It's just, I just get a huge buzz from it.
So you get a huge buzz from helping other people.
Yeah.
Who's the one or two people in your life that have had the biggest influence, that have helped you?
There's a lot of really good people that I've worked with, going right back to my first boss at the police academy, a fellow named Bill Hunter. Was a runner, and he was my boss, and he's a very, very kind, generous man. I learned a lot off him in terms of as a runner, as a father, and as a husband, and as a person. I just really admired him. And whilst we're not in contact today, I still see what he does on Facebook. I'm an insatiably curious person. I love to read, listen, ingest a lot of different things. My work ethic came from my parents. My parents were beautiful people that worked really hard in small business all their life, so I saw them go through the ups and downs of being a small business owner. So I think from a personal perspective, in terms of work ethic and that resilience, that certainly comes from my parents, but especially my mother. And from a professional perspective, I think probably my first boss at the police academy was someone I looked up to quite a lot.
As you observe other sport coaches, managers, is there one person that you love to learn from?
If I could sit down with a guy like Simon Sinek, it'd be pretty cool. I think his ability to tell stories is... You look at the people that we're following, it's their ability to tell a story. Him, Brene Brown, Rich Roll, they just have these ability to tell stories, but impart their knowledge. So anyone that can tell a story in a humble, understated way, I can really resonate with. And so, that'd be pretty cool to sit across someone like Simon Sinek.
So I was going to ask you, is Simon's book, Start With Why, is that your favourite book, or have you got another one?
No, my favourite book is actually one that I recommend to all of my triathletes.
Okay.
By James Clear, Atomic Habits. It's got nothing to do with triathlon. In terms of the physiology, but it's got everything to do with triathlon.
So for those people that haven't read it or listened to it, what's the key takeaway?
If you want to achieve any level of performance in life, and that doesn't mean at an elite level in sport or business, but just be a good human being, it's all on habits and routines. We brush our teeth every day. Don't always feel like it, but we do it. We shower every day. Well, we should shower every day. Sometimes you don't feel like it, but you go, no, I'm going to have a shower. So you think about it, we get dressed, we tie up our shoelaces. These are all part of a habit and routine. If we want to live a healthy, fulfilling life, motivation is a limited behaviour that runs out, especially when it comes to exercise. So for me, the three key components of a sustainable, healthy life is having that strong why and a purpose. That's why I think Simon Sinek's message is very relatable today in today's world. Developing habits and routines that are easy to do, because we'll always take the easy way out. Willpower doesn't work. And then being part of a community, because we're social animals. You do those three, I believe they're the keys to actually living a healthy, sustainable life.
So it's funny, I often say to my coaching clients, our body and our mind will take the path of least resistance.
100%, all the time.
Fundamentally lazy. So I'm interested, from the research that you've done, what's the average number of days that you need to do something to get to the stage of something becoming a habit?
From my own anecdotal,
Yeah.
just research and bro science, you might call it, I think 2 years. before something becomes a habit. You look at an event like an Ironman triathlon, 3.8 kilometre swim, 180 kilometre ride, 42 kilometre run. Ironman are a private equity corporation. They don't care about you, Adam. They just want you to buy the ticket to Ironman and do their race. Now, it's a massive event. They romanticise the whole journey. Now, I see people take up Ironman and it's their first triathlon after 6 months. They might use it as a weight loss journey or to fundraise or something, and they'll change their life. They'll look great. They'll feel great. And then after the event, they go back, they put on weight, they fall into bad habits again. So it takes a good couple of years, in my belief, before, from a lifestyle and a health and wellness perspective, that habits are formed enough for them to become lifetime. Yeah.
So a lot of leaders don't necessarily prioritise their health and well-being.
No.
What's the one or two things that you would be advising that they should be thinking or looking at to kind of change or get into those habits?
What they do in the morning. What they do in the morning. I still struggle if I hear of workplaces that saying you have to be in a certain time and stay till a certain time and micromanaged, and you've got to be, you can only have a certain amount of time for lunch, and they work everyone to the nth degree. I'm like, that's just not productive. They're not understanding the way we work as human beings. We don't operate that way. We've got too many distractions now. We've evolved as humans. We've evolved in terms of the way we work, the way we live, the way we consume things on our phones and all that sort of stuff. But sometimes I don't know whether leaders have evolved. Still very much in a traditional sense, leadership is always evolving because we're evolving as a species. So how are leaders evolving? And I think, for me, the best quality a leader can have is the ability to actually sit down and say, how are you, Adam? No, how are you really, Adam? And actually look someone deeply in the eye and listen to them and not be distracted. And inquisitive question, where you've got to ask the question 3 or 4 times, make them feel as though they're actually valued. To me, that is the best quality. I mean, how many times do you actually sit down with anyone and they look you eye to eye and you can tell that they're listening? Most of the time they're actually waiting to ask a question or talk about themselves. I've had a couple of mentors in my life, and I haven't lasted with them long because they just didn't give a shit.
Okay.
I like not being able to return emails, not being able to return phone calls, not turning up on time to meetings, and when you talk to them, they're not even listening to you. I'm like, you're supposed to be a mentor. I think there's a lack of good mentors and a lack of good leaders and a lack of good coaches out there.
So how do we change that?
Well, how long have you got? That's a really good question that I probably don't have the answer to. It's our ability to have conversations, firstly, our ability to interconnect and relate to each other. Are we teaching that at schools? Are we teaching kids how to have conversations, how to have difficult conversations, how to listen to each other, how to empathise with each other? Is that what we're teaching? That's what I've learned through coaching. Having worked with, and police work with so many different types of people in so many different scenarios where I see the best and worst in people. If you're curious and you're a naturally, I think, empathetic person, you evolve and you learn. But if they talk about growth mindset, fixed mindset. If you're a very fixed mindset, well then, I don't know whether you should be a leader.
Just share with us where people can find you, and I'd love for you to share about your podcast as well.
So worldmultisport.com is the website, coastal5.co.nz is the Coastal 5, and a podcast is called Enduro 101, which I co-host with Matt Hastings, who kindly said nice words about me a few weeks ago. And we're on Apple, Spotify, and the web, and we're just 11 episodes in now. I love doing it. Matt is a fantastic host. He's a brilliant host. He makes me look good. Makes me sound good.
Who's the one person that if you could interview on the podcast, who would it be?
Oh, okay. One person I could interview, Barack Obama. I think he's a fascinating guest. Slightly out of our genre.
Yeah.
But I just think he's the best orator I've ever seen. The best orator and speaker that I've ever seen. Yeah. Fascinating person, yeah.
Mark, thank you. Slightly different topic today, but massively appreciate your vulnerability and honesty, and the sharing that you've done has been great. So much wisdom, so much knowledge. I've listened to the podcast. It's definitely worthwhile listening to. If you've enjoyed this episode, please forward on to somebody else, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Leadership Lab. Bye for now.